وابتسم قبال العبد إذا اغتنما.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Today's topic for Ramadan Daily Dose is keeping priorities straight.
And the hikmah, or the word of wisdom for today, is a sign of following one's whims is to be active with optional good deeds while being lazy with required obligations.
Alhamdulillah, we are now doing a lot more things on our journey towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We're adding on a lot more things to show Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that we are thankful and grateful, like we talked about in yesterday's episode. And now we're picking up a lot more things. So we need to be more organized. We need to keep our priorities straight.
And the reason we need to do this is because sometimes we become preoccupied with the optional and the sunan and the extra things that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants us to do. And sometimes we neglect the fara'id that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has commanded us to do first.
So we need to assess our foundation. We need to go back to the basics. We need to keep ourselves in check. So what we're going to do today is look over the priorities. What takes priority when it comes to sunnahs, when it comes to the fara'id, and when it comes to both of them, between each other. Well, that's the first one we'll start out with because it's simple. We all know that a farad takes place over a sunnah. That takes priority. So an example of that is if you're entering a masjid and you want to pray tahiyyat al-masjid, the welcoming prayer when you enter the house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and you're about to pray and you notice that now they're making iqamah for salat al-asr, and that means that now they're about to pray and they're about to do something that's obligatory in congregation, and you're about to do something that's a sunnah. So you shouldn't pray your sunnah, you shouldn't do that, you should leave it and you should go do something that's fard. So you put priority of a fard over a sunnah.
So now if we look at the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, there are also some sunnahs that take precedence over other sunnahs. If we look at the various sunnahs throughout the day that we pray with our 5 daily prayers, there are certain ones that the Prophet ﷺ singled out as being more important than the other sunnahs. So now as we're journeying toward Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and we're trying to pray sunnahs, more with our regular prayers, we shouldn't just, choose whichever ones are more convenient for us, but we should know that the Prophet ﷺ encouraged us to pray, the 2 sunnahs before Fajr and to pray witr after Isha. And if we're going to pray sunnahs, we need to focus on those before we start focusing on the other sunnahs.
The Prophet Muhammad ﷺ used to never leave these even while traveling. He used to never leave Sunnat al-Fajr and he used to never leave the Witr Salah. And now between the fara'id, the mandatory actions Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has told us to do, there are priorities in those as well. So for example, let's say you've saved enough money to go to Hajj later in this year. But all of a sudden, your mother becomes sick, she goes into the hospital, and she doesn't have any more money, she doesn't have any more insurance or anything to cover her bills and her medications and so on and so forth. You have to step up and do that because taking care of your mother is an immediate fard, while going to Hajj is a fard that can be delayed to a later time.
So in prioritizing, we also need to look at a hadith of the Prophet ﷺ in which he said that there is a morsel of flesh within the body that if it is sound, then the rest of the body will be sound. And if it is corrupt, the rest of the body will be corrupt. And then he said, أَلَا وَهِيَ الْقَلْبِ, that verily it is the heart. And so if we are not focusing on our heart, if we're not working on purifying our heart, then the rest of the deeds of our body will also be corrupt. And so we need to focus on this whenever we can.
An example of what Hazim just said is that of a person who is active within their community. So you might be part of a masjid and you're helping plan an event, a picnic, let's say. Right? You have the Eid picnic coming up. Inshallah, you want to plan that. But you're putting so much work and so much effort and the rest of your body is working and you might be so preoccupied in doing all of these, which initially are good, that you might forget to pray just because you're busy setting something up. SubhanAllah, we don't put priority of our hearts before the rest of the actions, and we don't realize that these actions are meaningless if our hearts aren't there. We need to put the priority of our hearts first, and then inshallah the actions will be perfected afterwards.
To help you get to Ramadan each and every day, check out the Mass Arizona page to get your
Daily Dose.